third of $1 billion. Troy Jackson talks about growing up in Aroostook County. I was born in Aroostook County, grew up in Washington County. I know what those small towns are like. I know what the problems they have in those rural towns. My district is a rural community. So, what we have here is, again, in my opinion, more spending, more promises as to how, we're going to make, Maine better again. But quite frankly, it's how do you pay for it? How do you pay for it, and what are you getting for your money? We got $1 billion a year now in K-12 education, and now we're going to throw another $400 million at it. How are we making education better? How are we making our kids better students and preparing them better for the future? I mean, other than simply saying we're going to spend more money. If you look at the revenue sources on their sheets, I don't think there's anybody that says that they think we're going to be getting $70 million, I believe, that they say on there in the tax from the Amazon tax. I don't think anyone says that. I think the reality is that's maybe $10, $15 million. It's certainly not $70 million. So you got to ask the questions, where are those numbers coming up on that sheet? Because I don't think those are real numbers. I think we have a huge challenge before us, because I think we have caucuses that are very far apart right now in this budget process. What is this budget going to look like? And I'm sure most of you have heard that out in the halls, that this is a tough budget. Now, align that against what the Democrats have simply proposed today, and I think you do see a very big, wide distance between Democrats and Republicans in terms of trying to bring the budget together in the next 60 days. Statutory adjournments, June 21. We're a little over 60 days out from that, and that's not including weekends and Easter. So there's a lot of work to get done. We appreciate the theatrics and the press conferences, but quite frankly, it's time to get down and start talking about what's going to be serious in this budget. Because the 3% is going to be an issue. The cuts are going to be an issue. For me, it's about how you're going to reform education, because we do need to look at reform. Ellie, if you want to add.
No, I think that the concern about just throwing money at problems is something that our caucus has had concern about for a long time. We need to see results. We need to see reform. We need to see some things changed instead of just continuing to throw money at the same old problems over and over again.
Mr. Leader, isn't it true that this budget is as dead on arrival as the governor's was dead on arrival? There was no Republican support for part of the governor's budget either. So both parties are going to sit down. When is that going to start?
Well, I think it's a reasonable question. I think the governor has, again, provided a roadmap, as he has in prior budgets. Look, I don't think anybody can contest what this governor and what Republicans have done over the last 6 years. Paying $750 million back to the hospitals. We've got $1 billion in the cash pool today. The structural gap has gone from over $1 billion down to just over $100 million. We've solved the pension problem. We've done 2 of the largest income tax cuts in Maine history. So I don't think it's fair to say that the governor's budget is dead on arrival. I think what the governor has done for 3 terms and now in his final term has provided us with a roadmap in terms of a way to make Maine more prosperous, including those that are less well off.
Are there any points of agreement that you can see between your caucus and the Democratic caucus?
Well, I think if you look at the big issues, for example, are the taxes. They don't do anything in terms of lowering the tax rate, including keeping the Maine as the highest income tax rate in the country with those making over $200,000. And certainly that's a wide issue. Again, on education, they're simply writing a big check to education. We are certainly not looking at that, and they're certainly not talking about reforms. And so in terms of the big pieces of this budget, do we agree with that we have an opioid epidemic? The answer is absolutely yes. That is an issue that needs to get looked at. I think when you have to look at strategic investments, you look at those in terms of the university, in our community colleges. I think those are wise investments, doing it at a reasonable pace. But I think there's areas where there's agreement. I think it's the question of generating revenues. How do they want to pay for their plan? How much do they want to spend? That's going to be the tough conversations in this at the end of the day, which is, revenue generating versus expenses. We think we have a spending problem in Maine. Democrats think that it's a revenue problem. It's how do we simply raise more revenue? And I'll only add this. You know, it's interesting, I remember when I served on the Appropriations Committee in the 125th, and we did the first round of the income tax cuts. They said it was going to cripple the state of Maine, it was going to shut down state government, $400 million. Didn't happen. This last income tax cut that we did, that House Republicans pushed for in the last budget, you're actually seeing a growth in revenue from those tax cuts. And so the Democrats spent a whole election cycle saying that, we were going to, bankrupt the state of Maine. It didn't happen.
And they did leave the surcharge in this plan, so it counts on that as well. Just the math
Yes.
of it. But I talked to Jeff Timberlake yesterday, and he said he want it gone. He'll stick around too. Is that the caucus's stance right now?
Look, our approach to this is to sit down and negotiate in good faith, right until the very end. I mean, no one here is here because they want to shut down state government or because we want to go into July or August or anything else like that. But people are going to have to become more reasonable in their positions because we are very far apart at this point. And I don't think that anybody's here talking about or wanting a state government shutdown.
Is this the farthest apart you've seen the building at this point?
I would say in the 4 budgets that I've been involved in, I think this is the toughest challenge that we have, and particularly given an election cycle where you have, the governor's seat up for election. I think there are political agendas out there simply beyond trying to get a budget done that make this budget a particular challenge.
So you think it is? You think
Yes,
that's true?
I do.
So getting, and again, pushing on this 3%, several Republicans have said, and I'm told that you have said, that your caucus won't leave this building with that 3% surcharge intact. Is that the Republican position?
I think it's a very strong position between House Republicans and Senate Republicans that 3% surcharge is a big problem, and it is going to have to get resolved one way or the other in this budget, I think, before we were able to pass one.
So is it possible that could be the only tax change, that aside from that, income taxes might not be cut any further?
I certainly don't favor that. I see that as really, that referendum question set that out there as an issue, but I don't think that's what should be driving us. I think we need to be looking at what's the strategic investments that Maine can make. I think one of those things is a tax cut for all Mainers, not simply trying to solve, a 3% surcharge that's been added by referendum.
You said that the 3% is obviously a problem for your caucus, but Maine voters did vote for that on the expectation that additional money is going to go to education. How do you guys get to that? If 3% is not the way to do it, kind of what are you guys talking about? What's another way to put additional money in education?
Well, again, I think that's the job of the tax committee. I think it's the job of the appropriations committee. I think we need to start looking at all those pieces. My understanding is that the referendums that have been passed in the last couple of decades, many of those referendums have been amended and changed by the legislature. And so I think what we need to do is certainly take what the voters said in terms of that referendum question. But I think it's our job to look at what can we do in Maine in terms of best positioning Maine in the future, given what the voters said in that referendum.